Everybody, so it is currently 8:49 at night. I leave in less than 6 hours to get on my flight down to Fort Lauderdale. By the time you're seeing this, I'll probably already be in Fort Lauderdale. Listen, I know I always say this, but I think tonight's story time is going to be a short story time just because of the fact that I have so much stuff to do. Anyways, before we get into today's story time, a quick word from our sponsor. Okay, everybody, I would like to give a big shout out to Foreo for sponsoring today's video. Clearly we are in my bathroom, but I'm about to go to the gym and I need to take my makeup off and wash my face because I do not want to be sweating with makeup in my pores. So I'm kind of going to be showing you guys my skincare routine. So if you guys have watched me on TikTok before, you will know that I swear by the Foreo electronic cleansing device. I swear that is what cleared up my acne, especially the T-sonic pulsations that it has on their silicone touch points. But specifically, I will be showing you guys the Luna 3. Now, this is my old Luna, and I'm pretty sure this is the Luna Fofo. I could be wrong. But this is what the old one looks like. As you can see, it's much smaller. And the Luna 3 has massage points on the back, and this one does not. So this is the Luna Foreo 3. As you can see, it's way bigger, and it has the massage points on the back. And also, this one is rechargeable, as you can see right there. But let me pretty much get into a little bit about this device while I am washing my face. Okay, so as you can see, I look like a totally different person. Took my makeup off and pulled up my hair, and now I'm gonna wash my face. So I'm pretty sure that we who wear makeup can agree that we need more of a deep cleanse on our skin. I mean, you could need a deep cleanse in general, but I know for me, I need it because I wear makeup 24/7. I'm always applying different products to my skin. And whenever I have makeup on, you know, almost all day, all that makeup soaks into my pores. So with this device, I hooked it up to my phone, and whenever I did that, there are settings for your skin type, and I've obviously put mine on sensitive skin because my skin is especially sensitive whenever the weather is changing and everything like that. And using this device, it also gets rid of dead skin cells, dirt, oil, and I really like this one also because since it is silicone, it's not as harsh as a brush. So now that my 2 minutes is up, the device turns itself off, and right after, I took off my makeup with my own cleanser for my makeup, and I can still see on here there is a tan pigment on the soap that's on my Foreo right now because of all of the makeup that was still in my pores. Okay, so now that my face is all washed, I am pretty much ready to go to the gym. I know that no makeup is gonna be stuck in my pores because that's just something I cannot have. Okay, so now I'm all done with my skincare routine. That's pretty much all that I do. I feel like the Luna 3 really just like helps to hydrate my skin. Like, look, my skin is literally all one color. This does not happen until after I wash my face and I'm ready for bed. But if you guys would like to check out this device, I will have it linked down below in the description. All right, let's get into today's story time. I'm going to bring you guys up close. There we go. Okay, everybody, so I forgot to do the usual rundown for these videos, so future me here popping in. First of all, for most of the video, I will be looking in this direction because my mirror is over here and I would like to see what I'm doing. I tell these story times in first person point of view, so if you don't like that, then hit the road. And most of these story times are sent in by anonymous people. Okay, so story time about how this girl and I were dating the same guy at the same time. So a little background information. I was 16 and a junior in high school. Well, I had been talking to this boy, and we are going to call him Tyler. Him and I had talked for about 3 months, and we did everything that couples would do without the labels. Well, everything was super good the first month. It was almost like our honeymoon phase. Well, then that quickly ended the second month. He had took a picture of me on Snapchat and sent it to one of his friends. Well, they ended up Snapchatting him back right away, and when I looked at the name, it said Bailey. To make things worse, this girl, Bailey, was #1 on his best friends list on Snapchat. By the way, I did not have Snapchat. At this time, I thought it was the most useless app ever made. Well, the fact that she was #1 on his best friends list was very concerning. Now, I know you're probably wondering why that's concerning. Well, Tyler would Snapchat his friends all day, every day. So you would think that one of his guy friends would be number one. But no, somehow this girl was. It just was not adding up. So I asked if it was Bailey merch, and he was like, no, I would never do that. Like, my best friend used to mess around with that girl. So then I was like, okay, then who the hell is this girl? Like, come on. It ain't that hard. And he said that it was some girl named Bailey Moore. Like, I wonder if guys just think that we're stupid. Like, why would you just like change 2 letters in the last name? But okay. By the way, I am literally reading this story time for the first time with you guys. So to be honest, I don't know if it's really a different girl or not. I don't know. And because I'm just dumb, I paid no attention to the fact that this is possibly her and he changed the name. Because I did know who Bailey Merch was, and so did everybody else, because a rumor went around saying that she slept with some girl's boyfriend. So I decided not to press the issue anymore and focus on the good, because we were both leaving for spring break in 2 days. Well, I went to Texas like a week before he went to Florida, and we talked the entire time and everything was going absolutely perfect. Except for the last 2 days. 2 days before I had left Texas, Tyler went down to Florida, and I didn't hear one word from him his whole entire trip, which was super weird considering the fact that we talked my whole entire trip. But I just ended up leaving it alone because I just wanted him to have fun on his vacation instead of worrying about fighting with me. How sweet of me. Well, when I was on my vacation, he had told me that he wanted me to come and meet his mom whenever we were both back in town. And I was super excited because I always heard great things about his mom, and it made me feel a little bit more closer to him. Well, then he also promised one of his friends that he would go to prom with them once he got back. So I did a little digging to find out who this person was that he was going to prom with, and it turns out that it is the same Bailey girl that was on his Snapchat. What a surprise. So I texted him because I just wanted to make sure. So I texted him asking who he was going to prom with, and he said Bailey Moore. And the reason why I texted him is because I wanted to make sure before I made a big deal about this that that was actually who it was about. So we don't want to look crazy for no reason. So at that point, I just left him on red because I knew that something was up at this point. Well, then he finally calls me later trying to ask me what's wrong. And I told him nothing, but he just kept asking. And that was pretty much the only time that we had talked while he was in Florida, because he decided that he was not going to talk to me until he got back. And the first day he was back, he decided that he was going to go to a party with some friends and get wasted. Then he spent the second day at the racetrack with his mom. So at this point, I was just really mad because he had not been responding to me. He just didn't seem like he wanted to talk to me. So I texted him and I was like, listen, you need to let me know if this is what you want or not, because I'm not going to put in time and energy to somebody who's going to treat me like this or doesn't want to be with me. So then he texts me back and he's like, no, like, I love you, I want to be with you, things have just been stressing me out a lot lately. So once again, like the idiot I am, I decide to forgive him for the time being. Well, we decided to go out for a movie later that night. Well, during the movie, I just kept getting this feeling that I really couldn't shake, that things really weren't good with us at all. So after the movie, I decided to ask him one more time about this girl, Bailey Moore, hoping to either get the truth out of him or just know more about her, to be honest. Because it's weird having some random girl go with your boyfriend to a different school to prom. But yet again, all I got was, I promise she's just a friend. I'm only going with her so that way I can hang out with my buddy Mitchell, who was one of his friends from the same town that she was from, apparently. So the movie was on Sunday night and we were done, I guess, fighting after that. And we were doing all good throughout the week. Well, when Friday rolled around, he decided that he wanted to go and get drunk with his friends again instead of hang out with his girlfriend. I mean, the girl that he was talking to. Well, that Saturday, he decides that he wants to go out again with his friends and party. So at that point, I just decided that I would do the same thing. I would get drunk with my friends and just hang out with them. Well, that night I decided to drive home, and I guess my parents could smell the alcohol, or they must have seen me stumbling up the driveway, because they did not buy the story of, oh, I smell like alcohol because I drove my friends home. Sunday morning, they took my keys and my phone and told me I was grounded, and that if I wanted to talk to Tyler, I had to get him to call one of their phones. So I had texted Tyler off of my phone before I gave it to them and said, hey, if you want to talk, like, you have to call me off my parents' phone because I am grounded. So he was like, okay, like, I'll try to call you at least once. I'm super busy. And one more thing, to make it worse, my parents had went through my phone and they saw that I was sexually active and that I had just taken a Plan B, like, not too long ago. Well, that made my dad go absolutely insane, so he decided to put me in an online class that was run out of the hotel that he was currently working at. Well, after that week, he must have felt bad for me, the fact that my boyfriend hadn't called the whole time, so he let me call Tyler. And he told me that I had at most 20 minutes to talk to Tyler. So I called Tyler and I was like really rude to him on the phone, low-key, but he deserved it. I was like, you're so rude. I deserve better than this. You haven't called the whole entire time. So then he tried to flip the whole situation on me, acting like he was the one with no phone to call me. He eventually apologized and said that he was scared to make my grounding worse. So that's when he decided that he just thought it was better if he didn't call at all. But then he was like, I still love you and still want to be with you, blah, blah, blah. So this time I told him, I don't believe you. You need to pick me or the BS. Well, then his response was, I don't think I'm ready to be what you need. I'm just not mentally there and I don't really want to do this to you. I've realized where I went wrong and I'm sorry. I just hope you can forgive me. So I just told him that I knew this was coming and that I just needed to hear it from him. And then he literally snaps me back saying, we can still be friends, right? I just don't think we can go beyond that because I don't want you getting hurt. Like, oh my God, thank you. How kind of you. So then I was like, I don't need you out of everyone feeling bad for me. Not to mention, I don't even need you at all. Like, how is us being friends going to make me feel better at all? It's not. It's really just not. Well, then he said that it would make him feel better because he still cared about me and he still wanted me to be his friend and be around. Like, sis, stop making this about you. So then I asked him what was the problem, because like, did this all start over the fact that I didn't text you back earlier after I got mad? And he goes, I don't know, it's just been really hard lately. I've been struggling with a lot of things. Yet he keeps saying this and he's not even explaining what the problem is. So then I was like, okay, so basically nothing's changed. You don't want to tell me what's wrong, like... So then I just told him, all right, well, I'm here if you need to talk, which I think was more than generous of me. And then he said, the absolute worst thing that you could ever say to somebody when you're breaking up with them, it's not you, it's me. I just wasn't ready for someone as great as you to come into my life yet. Okay, sis. Then he proceeded to apologize over like 100 times. And that he didn't know how he could lose me or, you know, stop thinking about me because I was so addictive for him. And then at the end, I told him, you know what, it's my fault. Like, I thought you wanted this, but clearly you didn't. So then I made him promise that he would never do this to another girl again. Then he said something like, I promise, and when I'm ready for you, I'll let you know. But until then, don't wait up for me. So then at that point, I just left him on red because I was tired of it. Well, then 2 days later, I get a bunch of videos from a private story, and it just happened to be Tyler's. Well, then I had found out that Tyler put all of my friends into a private story because clearly he wanted me to know that he moved on, knowing that they would send the stories to me. And these stories are of him with this Bailey girl. The Bailey who literally he said, oh, she got with my friend, I would never do that. Yeah, that one. And then it's captioned, one and only. Okay, sis. So I was laughing hysterically, kind of like in a crazy way and an angry way and an actual it was funny way. If you know, then you know. And then one of Tyler's friends who had gotten with Bailey texted me saying that Tyler had been staying at her house the past 6 weeks. So the whole time that we were dating, not the whole time, but half of the time that we were dating. So then I decided to message her and tell her what kind of person Tyler was and that we were dating the same guy at the same time. She was super sweet and everything, but unfortunately she still made the mistake of staying with him and being involved with him. Okay, everybody, thank you for tuning into tonight's story time. If you guys like this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up, and if you would like to see more of me, maybe hit that subscribe button down below. And if you would like to know whenever I post my next video, make sure to click that bell. Also, if you guys want to send in your anonymous story times, there will be a link down below for that as well. And just remember something, if you send in a longer story time, it will be featured on YouTube, or if you send in a short story, it will be most likely featured on TikTok. And if you guys want to keep up with me while I'm in Florida or just in general, all of my social medias are linked down below. Love you guys.
So is screwing over somebody's business a reason to kill them? I think we all know how insane the Joe versus Carol case was. When it came out, it was huge, and it released a whole subculture of things that we did not even know about. And just how competitive and strange the exotic animal industry in America is like. And it was really popular whenever I was younger for people to hire Joe for their birthday parties. Like, I kind of knew Joe as the person that did my friends' birthday parties and was like the magic man. But Peacock is now releasing a show called Joe versus Carol, so I figured we would actually talk more about the case. So Joseph Allen Maldonado Passage was born March 5th of 1963. He was born in Kansas and then later moved to Texas for high school. And I've really wondered what happened in his early life for him to become the man he is today, now in his 50s. The best way I think that I can describe Joe's personality is he's almost like a vlogger, a YouTube vlogger before that was even a thing. So he was born in Kansas and then moved to Texas to complete high school. And right after graduation, he served as the chief of police in Eastvale. And he ended up leaving law enforcement after he was in a pretty big accident. While he has made previous claims that going off of a bridge was self-inflicted, it's also been stated that it was during a drug investigation, so I don't know. But either way, he was left in a coma for 9 days and had several broken bones. But because of how severe the injuries were, he just was not the same after this. He moved to West Palm Beach and opened up a pet store. And a friend of his who owned a drive-through safari ended up bringing baby lions to him. And seeing his friend work with these animals was kind of his inspiration. So he moved to Arlington and opened up another pet shop with his brother, who also shared his love of exotic animals. But he ended up becoming a target for Arlington officials. He would fly an American flag with rainbow stripes above his building because he was openly gay. And horribly, he was subject to a lot of discrimination during this time. And in 1997, his brother Gerald Wayne passed away in an auto accident. And this absolutely destroyed Joe. So he ended up selling his pet shop and then acquiring 16 acres of land in Oklahoma with his parents. And he opened up the Gerald Wayne Exotic Memorial Park, dedicated to his brother. But this is just where the story begins. Okay guys, so things are about to get a little crazy. So in the 2000s, Joe ended up acquiring his first 2 tigers, which had been abandoned. And he stated that the first animal rescue in his career was actually an alligator with an eye infection. And a weird fun fact during this is he actually called up Steve Irwin during this time to help get the proper antibiotic for his alligator. And it seemed like at the very beginning of his career, his goal was to be kind of like Steve Irwin. He really wanted to be able to educate people on exotic animals. Well, one day in Texas, law enforcement found a group of neglected emus. So Joe ended up volunteering to take these emus back to his animal park. But he ended up having a hard time capturing and controlling these birds, so he wound up just killing them. He was obviously accused of animal cruelty by the police, but since they were considered livestock, that can be legally humanely killed in Texas. So Joe was not indicted. Well, Joe became obsessed with breeding tigers. Tiger cubs ended up being the most profitable because you could essentially get people to pay a lot of money to come hold a tiger, interact with a tiger. He was also breeding animals like ligers as well. But it is like $10,000 per tiger each year to feed them. And all these cubs grow up to be adults, so what are you going to do losing all that money? Well, Joe claimed that he could do it for $3,000 a year. And what he meant by this was he was feeding all of his big cats expired meat from Walmart, which he also ate too. The whole thing was kind of gross. And in 2006, they got cited multiple times by the USDA. He was falsifying wildlife records and was also killing animals, which is in violation of the Endangered Species Act. Also during this time, this man is documenting absolutely everything. While Joe's building up popularity and money, he's taking these cubs on tour. He also gets a singing career somewhere in this, which, by the way, is not him singing. He conned artists saying that he was making music for his reality show and they would be singing in it. And later on, he just made his own music videos to it. So all of this madness got the attention of Miss Carol Baskin. And man, is this when things get real messy. Okay, so let's get into Joe and Carol's feud. So whenever she heard all of this going on, she was like, absolutely not. She has a big cat sanctuary, and she's this wildlife advocate even though she prior owned a zoo like Joe's. So even though she used to do stuff like this, she was like, this is unethical, stop. And she already had like a pretty big online community. So she was trying to send her fan base, I don't really know what they're called, basically over to shut Joe down. So the audience plus her team at Big Cat Rescue would essentially email bomb any place Joe was hired at. They would cancel his shows, and this really affected his revenue. He set up his YouTube channel to basically talk bad about her, and she would kind of do the same thing online. And because she had done something similar to him, he essentially saw her as a hypocrite. But Joe took it too far on many occasions. One time videoing and uploading a video of him killing her in blow-up doll form, and he ended up actually going over via helicopter to survey her sanctuary. Apparently she had around 200 tigers, but for some reason all they could find were 12. So he posed the question, where are the other tigers at if she doesn't believe in cages? He also ended up obtaining her diary, which was stolen off of her computer by a former employee. Carol's husband, Don Lewis, ended up disappearing in 1997. He was legally declared dead in 2002, and Joe started to perpetuate that she may have killed her husband and fed him to the tigers. And there's just a lot of conspiracies surrounding his death. That's a whole separate case. And he was offering $10,000 for information to lead to Carol's arrest. And he went ahead and rebranded his travel show and named it after her sanctuary and gave it a Florida number, so a bunch of people were thinking that she was taking her tigers on traveling shows. So she sued him for trademark infringement and ended up getting $1 million. Well, not really. Joe filed for bankruptcy and she was unable to collect most of it. And then Joe turns around and runs for president in 2016. His little campaign video ended up going viral on YouTube. And when he failed, he ended up running for governor in 2018. Allegedly, his bankruptcy was kind of the motive behind this, so that he could build back up his money and turn people against Carol. And since this doesn't work, this is when he decides that he is going to hire someone to kill her. So Joe really needs help, really needs money for the zoo, and that's whenever he reaches out to Jeff Lowe. Jeff is from Vegas and also involved in this big cat industry. But in reality, he is honestly just a con artist. All the tapes for Joe's reality show that's been filmed is actually located in his alligator enclosure. And this whole enclosure horrifically burned down. Joe ended up blaming animal rights activists and alluded to the fact that Carol was responsible behind it. But the man filming him had said that he had caught some pretty awful things on tape, including Joe just killing animals for the fun of it. So it's theorized that Joe maybe just burnt down this building himself. So Joe ends up giving Jeff his zoo, thinking that he's going to get it back one day, because he claims that he has all this money and he's going to fix it and blah blah blah. And Jeff ends up suggesting to Joe that one of his men, who's a hitman, could kill Carol. They end up going as far as mapping out her bike trail, and they involve this man named Alan Glover who had no intention of killing Carol, and pays him literally just $3,000. Joe ends up getting arrested for this and has his zoo raided. They unearth 5 tiger skeletons on his property, and so he was charged with a murder-for-hire plot as well as killing 5 tigers in 2017. He was found guilty on 19 charges and was sentenced to 22 years in prison. So Jeff Lowe obviously screwed him over and now has ownership of his zoo, and strikes immunity because they flip on Joe. If you would like to go more into depth and know a little bit more about this feud, Joe vs. Carol is now on Peacock. Kate McKinnon is in it playing Carol Baskin, so I'm definitely going to be streaming it.
So the most terrifying thing about the Sally House is that nobody really knows if it's being haunted by a ghost or a demon. The Sally House, located in Atchison, Kansas, has a lengthy history of just terrifying owners, and has also been the source of 2 separate BuzzFeed Unsolves. And I really think that we should all go there ourselves. But first, let's get into the backstory. The Sally House was built between 1867 and 1871. It was built for Michael C. Finney and his family. This included his wife Kate and his 3 kids, James, Agnes, and Charles. And altogether, they lived in the basement while this was being built. But in the year 1872, Michael ended up passing away in the home. And years later, in 1906, his daughter Agnes moved back into the home. She got married to an engineer named William True, and in 1913, he also passed away in the home. Agnes passed away next in 1939. After this, several families moved in and out of the residence, and there wasn't a whole lot of incidents. But this all changed on December 31st of 1992 when the Pickmans moved in. Tony and Deborah Pickman, who were a newlywed couple and expecting their first child, had no idea what. So when Tony and Deborah Pickman were moving into the new house, their dog, who was normally very calm, would start to freak out a lot. And to give a little bit of timeline, about January through June of 1993, they would experience things such as lights flickering, cold spots around the home, landline calls dropped, pretty typical haunting stuff. But this honestly seems just common for a home built in the 1800s. Tony had even joked about there being a ghost. Well, in June of 1993, their baby arrived. And this is when things went from a little spooky to terrifying. Electronic toys would turn on and off. The wind-up mobile above his crib would just randomly go off. And he would wake up almost every hour of the night. Deborah describing it as if someone was wanting to play with him. A neighbor actually ended up coming to them and asking them why they left their nursery light on throughout the night, when in reality, their son had just been sleeping in their bedroom, so they weren't even in there turning on the light. Deborah's sister ended up coming into town to help with the baby, and she asked why all the baby's toys were on the floor arranged in a circle with backs facing each. When the Pigmans came up to check in the nursery, they put all the toys back where they came from. They left, turned off the lights, and when they came back to check, they found both the lights on and one of the bears lying flat on his back, just to put the bear back on the chair, and found it on the floor again later. Tony's brother Greg ended up coming over with a camera and asked the spirit if it wanted its picture taken. He snapped a picture of the bear in the nursery, and apparently the bear spun around before their eyes. The grown men were panicked. They were freaked out, ready to leave the house. Deborah was packing up all their stuff while Tony strapped the baby in the carrier. And as he was leaning down to do this, he felt this sharp pain in his back. But because their priority was to get out of there, they didn't look at his back until they got to Tony's parents. Deborah picked up his shirt and he had 3 large scratch marks. So they decided to call psychic Barbara Connor. She came and told the family that the house was being haunted by a girl named Sally. She concluded that she was childish and bratty, but mostly harmless. She'd light candles to show that she was friendly, but she said that Deborah needed to be firm with her. But the reality was far worse. So there was 2 times Sally made herself known. On October 31st of 1993, Tony came home from work on Halloween and turned around to see a little girl standing in his kitchen. She was in church clothes and he realized he could see through her. And he made the connection that this was probably Sally. Previous owners to the house came to the Pickmans and said that their 5-year-old daughter had an imaginary friend named Sally the entire time she was living there. She would be scolded for doing something and she would blame Sally for it, saying that I didn't do that, Sally did, or Sally told me to do that. A photo was made of what Tony had saw and the girl confirmed that that was a Sally from her youth. But the next time Tony saw Sally, it was a horrible nightmare. He woke up to her reaching for him, but he kept finding back and she ended up turning into something that looked more like an animal. It had rotting flesh, worms crawling through it, and it growled at him. Incidences kept happening years after they moved out. Another family moved in and the woman used it for demonic worship, making everything worse. But I'm curious and want to go visit it. My boyfriend and I are on a road trip to the Sally house. Go watch the vlog on my YouTube. Part 3 to the Hustlers case. So in 2008, the financial crisis hit and people were losing businesses, their homes. Wall Street completely crashed and trillions of dollars of wealth were gone overnight. So all this money going into the strip clubs were now disappearing. The girls were desperate and looking for another way to bring in the big bucks. Rosie had met Samantha back in 2007. She was a single mom from the Bronx and she was a recruiter for the club. So she would go out, find men, and bring them back. And you would get a percentage of each dollar that this guy would spend at the club if you were the one that recruited him. While this process is legal, Samantha decided to have some other girls do this along with her, and it progressively got illegal. Rosie would go to very high-end bars, dressed in a blazer, befriend the men, acting like she's just one of them and got off of her job as well. She would keep an eye out for things like Rolexes or Black American Express cards, and sometimes the other girls would join as well. But they ended up drugging them with MDMA and ketamine, which is not at all like a typical roofie, it's way more dangerous. And they would charge up their cards to insanely high amounts. Part 5 to the Hustlers case. So after American Express ends up looking at the receipts and seeing that they're forged, Amex refuses to pay Scores. So Scores then sues Dr. Yunin and then he countersues. He states that he's never even been to this strip club. And that's when Scores ends up releasing CCTV footage of him being there, but obviously he was drugged, so he doesn't remember. But the tabloids exploded. They were painting the picture that he just kind of spent too much money being drunk one night. So he went straight to the police, who had actually been aware of the scam for some time. But they needed a solid tip in order to put up a sting. So they end up sending in an agent to pose as a rich guy. And if you go to my Instagram Reels tab, there's a video over there that goes into detail on this sting operation. But ultimately, they were able to get enough evidence off of this to where they could take it to court and actually have the girls arrested. And it wasn't long till the girls started to make plea deals. Rosie was the first one to cooperate and she settled for 5 years of probation. Karina ended up serving 16 weeks at Rikers Island, along with 5 years probation. I want to know what y'all's thoughts are on this case. And go to my Insta if you want to see the extra video. Part 4 to the Hustlers case. So this group of girls were really getting away with it because a lot of these guys had really high-profile jobs or wives at home, so they would wake up the next day with this massive bill. They didn't want people to find out because it was at a strip club, so they would just pay it and move on. And sometimes whenever these guys were out there and the banks would flag it, the girls would actually pick up the phone pretending to be their assistant and confirm that the charges were legit. Samantha ended up setting her eyes on another victim, Dr. Yunin, who was a young cardiac surgeon from New Jersey. He was single, never married, and they really thought that he was the perfect target. They set him up on a date with another girl named Karina, who was obviously a part of this scheme, and they went on 3 dates total. The first 2 dates, he would wake up in the morning feeling kind of fuzzy, not really remembering, but he thought that he just overdrank. But by the third date, he actually woke up with a call from American Express, stating that there was $100,000 in charges to his credit card at Robert's Steakhouse, which was a steakhouse at Scores, the strip club. Absolutely pissed, he called Karina and went off, and then he decided to take legal action. This is part 2 to the Hustlers case. So Rosie ended up starting her job at a strip club and was making about $2,000 to $3,000 each night. Thankfully, for one of the first times in media, strippers were being actually shown in high positive regard, so it was inviting a lot more people into the strip clubs. And many of the Wall Street bros, after a hard day's work of scamming people, would come in and spend a lot of money. And at one point, Rosie was making about $10,000 a night from hedge fund managers. Literally because she was making her tuition in one night, she was like, school can be on the back burner. However, because of the type of men that were coming in, they had an overall mistrust for guys. In addition to this, men also ran the clubs. And a lot of the times they were getting really ridiculous working hours. And on top of this, which I did not know, you had to pay just to be able to work at certain clubs. So she was being charged about $300 just to come in and work. Everything was pretty much taxed, so you pretty much had to pay these managers additional money if you wanted them to send good clients your way. As Rosie states in her interview, all the girls collectively snapped. And then this is when the financial crisis of 2008 hit. On June 11th of 2014, 4 women and 1 man were indicted for illegally drugging men and charging thousands of dollars onto their credit cards in New York City strip clubs. Now, I know you guys have seen the movie Hustlers. I am a huge fan of J-Lo, and I really wanted to look in the true story that went behind this movie. One of the really interesting things that I found out is that Samantha Barbash, who was played by J-Lo, actually wasn't a stripper at all. But Samantha Barbash, along with her friend Rosie Keough, ended up hustling over $200,000 from men and targeted doctors, lawyers, bankers, while leading a small ring of exotic dancers and strip club workers in a 4-month scheme. To provide a little bit of backstory, Rosie ended up dropping out of school at 17 to work at a diner. And this is really where she learned originally how to finesse for tips. But she was right next door to a strip club, and managers from the strip club would come in and eat at the diner. Some would even suggest that she should come work for them, offering her a job. I just finished this makeup routine and I noticed that I'm breaking out down here. And I'm gonna be taking photos for you guys for Instagram tomorrow, so this has gotta go. I'm gonna start by taking off my makeup and then I will get right back to you guys. Now we're back with my designer bags. I'm gonna take out my skincare case. The first thing that I'm gonna put on is this Mary Jane Glow Mask. It matches my hair and it smells so good. And it's perfect if you get dry or dull skin over winter. It's gonna brighten you up, hydrate you, and clear your skin. And this mask doesn't even need to be washed off. It just absorbs into your skin. It also has cannabis sativa in it. I'll be back once this is absorbed. Okay, it's absorbed, and how good does my skin look? We're gonna top it off with the Mary Jane Glow Serum. This also has CBD in it, and it's just gonna help hydrate and nourish the skin. I couldn't even stress to you guys how good this smells. So the next part is I'm gonna be adding these heart-shaped acne patches. And I use these to just clear up my skin and heal it without over drying it. So Truly Beauty is launching a bundle right now to the 27th, where you can get all the products that I just showed, and it'll include a travel bag, spoon, and pouch. Go check it out. Hey guys, so I'm in the midst of creating this. Her Instagram is Hey Sophie, by the way. I'm going to be using some of my Maven Beauty products to do the finishing touches for the eyes. And I know this is not exact, this is just inspired, but we're going to go in with this black eyeliner to do this eye. Take it and create a wing. Go above my eye right here as well. I added some dots and I'm going to go in with more eyeliner for right here. Now I'm just adding this lip color in Snatch. I'm going to be adding some of this gold color right here. Now I'm going to be using these fun colors and just kind of going around my eye with it. First we're going to do the purple right here and right here. Now we're going to go in with that beautiful blue. I'm bringing it together with a green. Now I'm putting some red right here. Now moving it outwards with this paintbrush and finishing with a brown eyeliner. My lash glue is black. I'm going to go ahead and put on my mascara and attempt to put in a contact, so I'll be right back. My eye is watering. Now the look is complete. What do you guys think? It's kind of creepy. Remember to follow my Insta below, MinnieCooper_Liz.
Questions for couples.
Ooh, it's gonna start a fight edition.
Duet if you dare.
Starting off easy here.
Who usually gets to pick the TV shows you watch? Getting tougher.
Whose family sucks more?
Who's settled?
But like, when you think about it, who really settled?
When you argue, who makes less sense?
Whose exes are uglier?
Who has more fucked up genes that they could give to kids and ruin them?
But like, let's be real, who stole whose personality?
When you break up, who's gonna have a harder time finding someone?
And who is the freak in the sheets?
part 2 to my ex videoing me doing the nasty. So even though he forgave me, he still decided to video me like doing the famous call her daddy move. We continued to talk after this, but after a few days, some of the kids in school started to look at me funny. They would act super weird around me, and eventually I just asked someone what happened. And they were like, well, there's a video of you. I wasn't too stressed about it, I just asked him if he would stop showing people. And he said he would, but the video continued to go around. I started to worry once my best friend's cousin told my best friend's mom. That night, my best friend's mom went over to our house to tell my dad. My dad absolutely freaked out, and this is how everything went so downhill. My dad literally wanted to send me away to boarding school, and we ended up getting a call from the police about this issue. The guy ended up getting charged over this video. He was supposed to do community service, but ended up not doing it, so he was just fined. I really didn't want anything like this to happen, and we're now friends today. So I guess everything's okay. If you guys have a story you'd like to share, follow me and DM me on Instagram.
Hey guys, so today I'm going to be taking pictures, so we're going to do a little natural glowy look. Okay, so first you guys know the drill with the marshmallow primer. We're going to take our foundation drops and just mix it right on in. Now time to add in some blush. Contour it up and around your face if you want. Now it's time to see if we can shrink the size of our nose down. My vacuum named Hazel is in the process of cleaning. Hazel, nothing has been cleaned in here. Come back. Hazel, come back. She keeps heading into the wall. She's trying her best though. Now I'm going to use this highlighter by Maven Beauty. It should look like this at the end. Making sure my brows are nice and defined. And you guys know I'm a fan of the freckles right now. Now I'm going to sculpt up on my brows just to keep them there in place. Now I'm going to be creating a wing with the Maven Beauty eyeliner. Go straight up like that. And then take it down. Ta-da! Now prime like you mean it. Alright, get you some of this NYX lipstick. Trying to dry them. And we're almost done. So it's done, and this is what it looks like in natural lighting.
So this is why you have to be careful of people videoing you doing the nasty. So every year my town holds this event called Movie Under the Stars, where essentially a giant movie is projected onto a screen, but all the kids in my area just go to mess around with each other. So my friends and I decided to show up to this, and there was another group of guys that showed up as well. And one of my friends ended up knowing one of the guys in that group, so we went over to go talk to them. And a guy who was really cute kept making eye contact with me. So I literally didn't shut up about him for the rest of the night. He ended up snapping the girl next to me saying, "Hey, who's the girl in the jeans?" Meaning me, so all of us were freaking out and I got a Snapchat. We snapped for a bit and we planned for me to sneak.
Smells so good. And we're just gonna go for it. I'm gonna finish up my face so we can get to the fun part. Okay, so my base for this look is gonna be this color right here. And I'm gonna use some tape just to help with that line. Drag that down underneath like so. I'll take a hot pink color and just go right on top. I'm putting a holographic pink right in the inner corners. Now I'm using my finger to just pat on the glitter. I've actually never used white liquid liner before, but here we go. Okay, maybe this is not my expertise. It's not the most put together line, but it's a metaphor for my life. Now it's time to go in for the eyeliner. I'm gonna put on a little bit of this gold highlighter on my nose and cheeks, and I'll come back whenever my eyelashes and my brows are done. Okay, so here's the final look, and I actually really like it. I feel like it's not too bad. I definitely need to improve on it though. But let me know what you think in the comments. Does your mental health ever get so bad that you actually break down and buy a corset after watching too many episodes of Bridgerton? Because I recently made this purchase and I am so excited. Also decided to add a hoop and a skirt to it as well. For those of you who have not seen Bridgerton yet, just imagine going to fancy balls and then running through the woods very dramatically in a corset afterwards. And that's genuinely what I feel like doing. So welcome to this strange episode of trying to look like a bad bitch on Instagram without knowing anything about photography or anything about editing. Guess what came in today? She's beautiful. Now all I gotta do is not look like a hard-boiled egg, find some woods, and maybe even find a horse. Step 1 achieved. We are currently trying to put on the corset.
This is so confusing.
Looking for a forest. Found one.
Oh.
Wow, wow, wow.
These pictures low-key kind of look good. Okay, so come over to my Instagram and check out the pictures and let me know what photo shoot you want to see next.
How comfortable are you with your significant other challenge? Put a finger down if you've ever used
Your eyeliner. So you should have something like this. Now go in and do your normal foundation routine. I'll be right back. All done. So now we're going to take that same color at the bottom and go underneath our eyes with it. Just like so. Time for mascara. I'm going to just set on some lashes as well. So here is the final look. So let me know what you think in the comments and make sure to check out these really cute headbands.
Am I the asshole for not telling my daughter I'm aware of her lifestyle until almost a year later? Disclaimer, this is not my story. My daughter is 25. She lives a fairly wealthy life. And when asked by family, she says she invests stocks, crypto, and etc. I know she does, but that's not even half of her income. She does OnlyFans and Twitter and PH. I'm aware of this because I admit a single man in his 40s has needs. And I recognized it as right away. I clicked on her Twitter profile and her face was the profile picture. I blocked her, made a note of the name so I wouldn't come across them anywhere else, and felt kind of weird of myself, but I didn't bring it up to her. That was a year ago, and a few days ago, she finally admitted at a family function what she does. Mixed reaction and anger aside, I did let her know I knew, and I respect her choice as long as she's being safe, and knew she was okay with being online forever. She got really upset with me and told me I shouldn't be watching those kind of things and I'm disgusting. Hasn't talked to me since, and I get her disgust in it, but is it really that bad I never told her? I'm the asshole for deleting pictures of myself from my husband's phone. Disclaimer, this is not my story. I can't explain why, but I absolutely hate seeing pictures of myself pregnant and ask people not to take them. A few days ago, I saw my husband had changed his lock screen to a pregnant me. When I asked him about it, he told me he had missed me and the baby while he was away, and that's why he took the picture and changed it to his lock screen. He admitted he had forgotten to change it back before he got home, and that every time he went on a business trip, he was changing it to pictures of me pregnant. I was upset and asked him to delete it. He said he would, but when he was sleeping, I had a nagging feeling that he hadn't actually deleted it. So I checked his phone. He had 100+ pictures of me pregnant, all taken without me noticing, including the one I asked him to delete. I deleted them all. Yesterday he noticed and was really upset over it. We had an argument and he made a big show of changing his phone password and implied he had the pictures backed up. So am I the asshole? I don't know. Am I the asshole for overreacting when my boyfriend put icy hot in my bra? Disclaimer, this is not my story. I, 15 female, have been dating Luke, 16 male, for a year. This is the first time he pranked me. Today, while he was at my house, he did this horrible prank on me. He put icy hot in my bra when I was in the shower. He rubbed icy hot all over my bra, on top in my underwear drawer, with 2 of his friends, Liam and Barry. Then they left my room. I changed and came downstairs. It hurt like hell. I didn't know what was going on. I kept grimacing and cringing. And Luke was like, enjoying your icy hot? Oh yeah, you got pranked. I snapped and told him to get out. He said, calm down, it was a harmless prank, you're overreacting. You'll regret overreacting tomorrow, it's just a prank. I don't think it was a prank. It still hurts, and it's embarrassing. The 3 of them all saw my bras and underwear, and it was painful. He keeps calling and texting me, and I really don't want to talk to him right now. So am I the asshole?
Story of the time I quit a job because my boss was extremely discriminatory. I thought I was gonna butcher that word. Oh god. I would say the R word, but like I feel like it would get banned off TikTok, so you know. So anyway, I worked at this place, and right off the bat I kind of got weird vibes from the lady that worked there. Like, she seemed nice, but she was also like very blunt and like straightforward, which there's nothing wrong with that, except for when you're extremely blunt and straightforward towards like your opinions about things that are extremely controversial. Why can't I speak today? Controversial. Yeah. So, oh my god. I'll just tell you like one story. Maybe I'll tell more in the future, but like I can't even express to you. I get angry. Like, I know I'm gonna get angry while I'm talking about this. So anyway, a group of people that spoke Spanish came to the stand, and they were just browsing, you know. I was like trying to help them, but they didn't know what they wanted, which is pretty normal. I feel like every single person does that when they walk past the stand in a mall, you know. So they end up walking away, not getting anything, which is, like I said, pretty normal. And the lady goes, I feel like I can't say this on TikTok. She's like, ugh, those people, like, they just never buy anything. Except, like, she said, like, Mexican. And I was like, how do you know that they're Mexican? Because whenever people say, like, really dumb stuff, I always just hit them with, like, a really stupid question. Like, not even a stupid question, like a good question, but one that makes them feel stupid, you know what I mean? And she was like, because look at them, like, you could just tell. And I was like, yeah, I don't know about that. I honestly, like, I can't tell. Like, you could tell that they're Hispanic, but, like, they definitely don't look, you know, Mexican. And she was like, what? That's literally the same thing. Like, what are you talking about? And it's crazy, like, I forgot to mention this, but she literally moved here from a different country, like, a few years ago, so I just, like, don't get how she could be so ignorant, you know? Anyway, we had jewelry imported from Mexico and from Guatemala. So one day this guy comes in, it's, like, right before Valentine's Day. He's like, oh, I have to get my wife something really special because her birthday's on Valentine's Day, and, like, you know, I have to knock both of those events out at once by getting her something extravagant, blah, blah, whatever. So I showed him the jewelry from Guatemala because it was pretty expensive, you know? And the lady's like, did you tell him it's imported from Guatemala? Did you tell him that it's handmade? Blah, 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 whatever. And I was like, oh, which one is it? From Mexico or Guatemala? And she's like, you should know this. This is the first thing I taught you, from Guatemala. And I was like, well, they look the same. Like, how could you tell? And hopefully that made her feel stupid. Story at the time I had the cops raid this guy's house to find my phone. So anyway, the cops go up to the guy's door. And like I said, it was an apartment building with 2 people living in it. And the guy said in Spanish to his wife, no, don't let them in, don't let them in. But then one of the cops ended up speaking Spanish. And he was like, all right, well, now that you just said that, we had to come in. So the cops go in, raid the entire house. I start playing the Find My iPhone sound. Like, you know when you lose your phone and you log in to Find My iPhone and then it starts going ding, ding. All of a sudden, we hear the sound. And all you see is just one of the guys standing there in the corner with his hand on his head being like, oh my God. So the cop comes out, ends up giving me my phone. So I said to the cop, what did they say? And the cop was like, it was the owner of a restaurant and he said that you left your phone in there. And he said he took it home with him so nobody would steal it. Questionable, but that's so embarrassing. I'm never going back to that restaurant. Story of the time I had the police raid somebody's house to find my phone. So the other day, me and my boyfriend were out pretty much the entire day. And you know, whenever I'm with my boyfriend, I don't pay attention to anything else except for him because like, oh my God, I just love him. No, but seriously, I really just was not paying attention and I didn't realize that I didn't have my phone on me for like 5 hours. So during that time, we went to a restaurant, we went to Walmart, we went to 7-Eleven, we just went to a bunch of places and we were just so in love that we were just not paying attention to anything. Actually, I should say I wasn't paying attention to anything because, you know, I was the one that lost my phone. Anyway, it comes around to like 10 o'clock at night and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna leave now. He's like, okay, where's your phone? So we start looking around, can't find it anywhere. So I was like, wait a minute, check my location to make sure that I didn't like, you know, leave it anywhere. It's probably in my car. We checked the location and I kid you not, it was in a different town than we were in. So long story short, we end up driving to the location that it was at. But it was literally in an apartment complex that we've never been to. So there was no way that I could have left it there. So we came to a conclusion that somebody's trying to steal my phone. And we didn't want to knock on any of the apartments ourselves just in case, you know, like somebody dangerous came out because it was a sketchy area and like we never been there and I don't know. So I decided to call the cops. The cops take like an hour to get there and they knock on the building that it said that my phone was in. So in the building there was 2 people that lived in it, so it was like split in half. And the first people that were downstairs answered the door. At this point it was like 2 in the morning. So the guy starts speaking in Spanish and he's like, don't let them in, don't let them in. But then one of the police officers actually spoke Spanish, so he was like, just because you said that, now we have to come in. So they start raiding the guy's house like for Guess who just turned 21 today and spent the entire night doing her nails because she wanted her nails to look cute for her birthday but now is running off of no sleep? Me! Nah, but I literally stayed up all night doing my nails for no reason. Like, I should have done this last week, but I'm just lazy and I wait till last second to do everything. So, here we are. Started doing them at, 10 o'clock last night, and it's 2:30 in the afternoon right now because it's my birthday and I don't want to sleep on my birthday. But anyway, turning 21 reminded me of a very funny story. Actually, kind of like a life lesson, honestly. So, this was like a few years ago. So, the store that sells beverages, right, to people who are, you know, teenagers, was a place that I would go often. And I'm not proud of it and do not do this because you should only be partaking in these activities when you are the legal age. But anyway, I went in there, got some bevs, and brought it to my friend's house to have some fun, you know, just to chill, you know, laugh a little bit, be a little goofy together, you know. But, you know that we had too many bevs when my friend was like, let's sneak some boys in. And I was like, your parents are home and awake, so maybe not. And she was like, nah, let's do it. So she calls them over. By the way, this is her house, not my house. If it was my house, I'd be like, yeah, okay, you thought. But anyway, sneaks them in. 5 minutes later, her dad texts her, who just snuck into my house? I see you on the Ring camera. And she was like, nobody. And I was like, oh God. And he was like, I just saw you. And she was like, Dad, you're seeing things. And he was like, if I come downstairs right now, am I going to find anyone? And she was like, no. So he comes down and finds 8 boys in the closet. You guys, I have a rash on my neck. And I need somebody's advice because I'm freaking out. And I don't know if it's a rash, if it's I've been bit by a bug, if a vampire bit me in my sleep. I don't really know. So I'm going to tell you a little backstory of like how I got it. But first, guys, you need this cordless hair curler. Like, I'm just saying, the curls come out beautiful. And I'm not going to lie, I had to go over the curls like 1 or 2 times just like because I never used this before. So I had to like see, you know, what worked or whatever. But the link is in my bio, just so you know. Anyway, back to this mystery rash, growth, whatever you want to call it on my neck. So a couple of days ago, okay, I'm not trying to throw my friend under the bus or anything because like I don't think she has like roaches or like bed bugs or anything, but like at the same time, like you never know, I don't know. But I slept at her house for like 3 days in a row, and I initially thought that I went to bed itching because, you know, she has a dog and it sheds, which honestly could be the case. Like I said, I don't know. I need your guys' help and advice because I have no idea what this possibly could be. So then the last night that I slept there, I had a dream that I got bit by a giant mosquito on my neck. And in my dream, I went into my dad's toolbox, took out sandpaper, and just started itching my neck. I don't know what that noise was. So moral of the story, I literally was itching my neck in my sleep while I was asleep and woke up itching my neck still. Not only my neck, but my thumb. Yes, my thumb. And like, I don't know about you, but anytime I've ever gotten a bug bite on my finger, like it just I never feel satisfied itching it. I try to bite it too, but like it still is just not satisfying. The only thing that I've ever been able to like find that actually itches a mosquito bite or bug bite on my thumb is the lid to a water bottle, like the cap, like, you know, the rough part. Like that's the only thing I've ever been able to find like that actually works when I'm trying to itch something on my thumb. But anyway, that's irrelevant. So anyway, oh, by the way, I forgot to mention that hickey on my neck is not the bug bite. In this video, like, you can't see it because it already like kind of went away, but yeah, I probably should have like mentioned that because this whole time you probably thought that was the bug bite, but it's not. But yeah, anyway, so I told my dad, and then he called the exterminators. The exterminators ended up saying that we had carpet beetles, and so they sprayed the entire house, and they told us that we would find like corpses of bugs. Never found any corpses at all, so I feel like they were just pretending that we had carpet beetles just to charge us to spray the whole house. But anyway, yeah, link in bio for the curling iron. Guess what time it is? New hair, who this? New hair, who this time? Nah, but for real, I just got my new extensions in the mail. Oh my god, 360 grams and like 24 inches. Can you just take a moment of silence for me to appreciate these nice extensions? Like, girl. But anyway, I washed them, and then I also blow dried them and used my straightener to make them wavy, and yeah, but I'll make a separate video showing you guys that. Okay, so I'm currently, I don't know what my story time is going to be about. I don't know what I'm going to be recording this for, but I'm currently late for a job interview. I was supposed to be there at 12, and it's already like 1:18, so I have my cordless curling iron. Yes. Okay, good news is I don't have to be there till 2, so I have a little bit of time. It's like 10 minutes away, and obviously I didn't show you guys the whole process of blow drying the extensions, and I did put like the straightener over them because like these extensions are thick, so they get like really tangled really easily. So there's like a slight wave to them, but like they're not popping enough. I need like bouncy, nice, defined curls. So let's see how this bad boy works. Oh, my stomach just growled. I'm at a stoplight. So this is what it looks like. Very cute, very sleek look to it. It's called Luxio. Okay, so I was gonna just curl it and do it while I was driving, but I figured that it's probably not that safe. Driving with my knee is probably not the best thing to do. So you know what, there's a Wawa coming up. I'm just gonna park in there real quick. It's like 3 minutes away, the interview, so like that'll be good. And it's 1:25, but gotta be there too. It's fine. Pulling up to the hair salon. My stomach is, maybe I'll get like coffee, I don't know. Okay, we're here, and as you can see, my hair is very like so let's see. So we turned this on, and I charged this last night to make sure that it's like nice and charged. Bitch, excuse me. Oh, okay, I had to hold it. So you could go to like 180 degrees. So I'm just gonna, whoa, I'm sorry, I just like never used this before. So I'm guessing like you just put it up. Oh wait, 180 degrees Celsius. So that's like more Fahrenheit, right? Okay, I'm running out of time. So I'm gonna do an underpiece first to make sure that I'm like going in the right direction, you know what I mean? So ignore the broken nail, but like, okay. So I'm gonna put it like this on the side. Then I want it to go this way. So let's see. Hold it there, a few seconds. I'll wait. Sorry, I just didn't want to like use up all my time. Okay. Oh! Okay, I'll show you my whole hair when I'm done. Okay, so I only did the front pieces, but like look at how much better. I gotta go. Bye! Lincoln, bye. During the time I met my biological family. So as some of you may know, I'm adopted, and I do know my biological family on my mother's side, but I never met anybody on my father's side. Until, you know, recent years. I thought it was because they knew nothing about me, but come to find out they just wanted nothing to do with me. Or so I thought. So long story short, I found out my biological father passed away in 2010. And when I found that out, it was already too late, so I could never meet him anyway. But I found his obituary online, and I looked up his family members on Facebook and messaged them. I went more into detail about that in my last video if you want to check it out. But anyway, I find out that his family lived lived 10 minutes away from me my entire life. So I could have easily ran into them at the supermarket and never have known. Anyway, we set up a day to meet. At the time I was 16, so I definitely didn't want to go alone. So my biological grandma, who I've been close with my entire life, was really excited for me and she really wanted me to meet them, so she took me to meet them. When I met up with them, they were pretty nice and they all kept on telling me how much I looked like him. They told me that there was rumors about him having a child, but nobody knew for sure. And obviously nobody bothered to look into it. I was a kid, so I was really awkward, so I didn't say much. My grandma was doing most of the talking. The craziest thing about this entire situation is that my biological father actually had a nephew. And get this, he has a daughter that's my age, in my grade, whose name is Mia. And he has a son who's a little bit younger, but his birthday is the same as mine. How wild is that? They haven't talked to me since, but it's cool. Story of the time I met my biological family. So some of you guys might not know this, but I was adopted. It was an open adoption, so I knew that I was adopted my whole life. And I always knew my biological mother and her side of the family. I was told from the beginning that my biological father had no idea that I even existed. But then a few years ago, I asked my parents what the whole process was like when they went to adopt me. And he told me that my biological father had to sign away the rights to give me up, which my biological grandma never told me. Mind you, I'm really close to her and she always told me everything that had to do with that situation if I asked, but just not that. So anyway, I look his name up online. Come to find out, he passed away in 2010. So obviously the idea of meeting him was out of the picture completely. But I looked up his last name on Facebook to see if he had any sisters or other kids or anything. And he had no other kids, but he had a sister. So I messaged her and I said, "Hi, my name is Mia. I'm 15 years old and I'm so-and-so's daughter. I'm not sure if you knew about me, but I thought I would reach out."
Am I the asshole for picking a fight and telling my dad to grow up over a used pad? Disclaimer, this is not my story. My 12-year-old sister got her first period a few days ago. It was rather stressful for her since her whole life she lived in a house with no women. With the help of a few female friends, I ended up getting her all the stuff she needed, and a few friends taught her what she needs to know. It was a rough start with a lot of cleaning, but she got in the hang of it. My dad didn't help much. In fact, I don't think he even knew she got her period before today when he saw a used pad in the bathroom trash. I heard him complaining about it to my sister and I stepped in. I was already irritated as about 20 minutes before that me and my dad got into a light argument. He was saying she shouldn't just be laying those things around. Part 2 is up. Part 2. Am I the asshole for picking a fight and telling my dad to grow up over a pad? Disclaimer, this is not my story. He was saying she shouldn't just be laying those things around and didn't want to see bloody products in his bathroom. I told him that it wasn't a big deal. It was one pad with some toilet paper on top of it. If it bothered him so much, all he had to do was take some more toilet paper and shove it down. That's when the argument got worse, and we both was borderline yelling at each other. When I said, "This whole thing is stupid, it's just a little bit of effing blood. It was in a trash can and mostly covered. Grow the hell up." He bit back saying it's not immature for him not wanting to see my sister blood stain pass around his space as well. That is gross and isn't his problem, though he shouldn't have to see it. Ooh. Am I the asshole for reporting my sister for child abandonment? I'm a 32-year-old woman, my sister's 34, and her husband have 3 children. So she's not a single mother and not struggling financially. Yet, she insists I watch her kids because you never see them. Come on, be a good aunt. She and her husband can afford a babysitter, but just prefer to leave the kids with relatives. The other day, she came to my house and told me to let the kids come in at the house and told me to let the kids come in as she had errands to run. I did what I usually do and told her to get lost, and that usually works, but this time she decided to leave the kids on my porch and drove away. I immediately called my county version of CPS and reported it as a case of child abandonment. Long story short, the kids were taken into protective custody. My sister and her husband had to get a lawyer and go through a mountain of procedures to get them back. I thought what I did was well deserved, but my mom has been on my case telling me I was cruel. I believe I did what any law-abiding citizen should do, but what do you think? Am I the asshole? I don't know. I personally wouldn't do that to my sister, but if it's happening over and over again, maybe y'all need to have a little talk. But if y'all want me to do more story times like this, just let me know. So yeah, I hope y'all enjoyed this hairstyle. But yeah, just leave a comment. Is she the asshole or is she not the asshole?
Imagine your parents leaving you with someone they thought they could trust, only for you to end up being tortured by the entire neighborhood. In July of 1965, Sylvia Likens, 16, and her younger sister Jenny, 15, were sent to live with a woman named Gertrude Beniszewski. Sylvia's parents were in desperate need of money and joined a traveling carnival. They promised Beniszewski $20 per week to take the girls in. Beniszewski already had 7 children of her own, so what's 2 more? Little did Sylvia's parents know this would be the last time they'd see their daughter alive. At first, the payments were on time and Sylvia and Jenny fit right in. Jenny had polio and wore a leg brace, so Sylvia did the chores for both of them and took care of her. The problems began when the payments for their room and board was late. Gertrude started beating the girls with paddles. One day in August, the girls were beaten 15 times because Gertrude's oldest daughter told her that the girls had overeaten that day. The abuse quickly escalated and poor young Sylvia became the focus of Gertrude's wrath. It's thought that Gertrude, who was 36 at the time, and her eldest daughter Paula were jealous of Sylvia's looks. Gertrude would starve Sylvia, followed by force feeding her until she'd vomit, then force her to eat the regurgitated contents. She once struck Sylvia so hard across the face that she broke her wrist, and then when the cast dried, she used it as a weapon. Slowly, Gertrude got her children to join in on the horrific abuse, followed by the neighborhood children. She encouraged them to use Sylvia as a dummy and practice martial arts on her. As more children joined in, Gertrude gained popularity and the violence became more extreme. At one point, she forced Sylvia to strip and use a glass bottle on herself in the middle of the living room for the neighborhood boys to watch. By the end of summer, Sylvia was forbidden from attending school and held captive at home. Because of the continuous cruelty, Sylvia had become incontinent. This angered Gertrude and she had Sylvia tied up naked in the basement on October 6th. Poor Sylvia was then subject to burns, beatings, verbal and physical sexual assault, and etc. She was also given very little to eat and forced to wet herself and use dark corners of the basement as a toilet. Word spread in the neighborhood amongst the children and they would pay 5 cents apiece to come and see Sylvia for themselves. The broken, scarred, and burned body of a teenager was a sight to behold for a curious child. Neighbors would later recount hearing screaming coming from the house until 3 in the morning at times, but in those days, no one wanted to intrude on others' household affairs, so no one came forward. Even Sylvia's older sister, who was told twice by her and Jenny about the abuse, thought that the sisters were exaggerating and did nothing about it. It seemed like everyone was turning a blind eye. However, for Sylvia, the horror kept escalating. Crime Fanatic Friday Part 2, the girl tortured by an entire neighborhood. After holding 16-year-old Sylvia Likens captive in the basement, Gertrude Beniszewski's heinous acts continued at a greater rate. Gertrude, her 7 children, and the neighborhood kids would help Gertrude restrain Sylvia as she received scalding hot baths and cuts, where Gertrude would rub salt into her wounds and sores. On October 23rd, they burned in her stomach with a hot needle, saying, "I'm a prostitute and proud of it." Once finished, Gertrude's 10-year-old daughter tried to brand Sylvia's left breast with a heated bolt that had an S on it. Sylvia knew that she was dying and even told her younger sister that she didn't have long to live. She tried to escape on October 25th but was caught by Gertrude before she made it to the door. The final day of Sylvia's life was different than the previous months. She was delirious and couldn't speak. She was fully incontinent, and Gertrude's 12-year-old boy hosed her down with cold water while laughing at her. Even in her weakened state, she made one final attempt at escaping before Gertrude caught her at the basement door and stomped on her head. In her last hours, she was given a warm bubble bath, changed into clean clothes, and laid on the mattress. She closed her eyes and never opened them again. Days earlier, Gertrude forced Sylvia to write a letter claiming that she had run away and the boys from the neighborhood were her torturers. Her last attempt at deflecting any blame was to cover Sylvia's body in rubbing alcohol. When police arrived, Gertrude told them that Sylvia had returned home in her bloody and dying state and that she had been trying to nurse her. Everyone was questioned, but no one was talking. No one except Sylvia's 15-year-old sister, Jenny. She told police, "You get me out of here and I'll tell you everything." Gertrude, 5 of her children, and 5 of the neighborhood kids were all arrested for Sylvia's murder. Her autopsy showed 150 wounds, some down to the bone, and she had also bitten through her lips when she died, almost detaching it from her face. Gertrude and her eldest daughter, Paula, were sentenced to life in prison. However, both of them were released on parole later on. They both changed their names and went on to lead new lives, but Gertrude died in 1990 of lung cancer. Jenny, Sylvia's sister, went on to marry and have 2 children of her own. She spent years on medication due to anxiety from watching her sister's torture and murder. 2 movies have been made based on Sylvia Likens' story, one called An American Crime and the other called The Girl Next Door. That's actually how I heard about this case. Both movies are heartbreaking though, so please take caution when watching. Because of this case, if anyone sees any type of child abuse in the state of Indiana, they are required by law to report it. Imagine your father asking you to help him install his cellar door only to be locked inside by him for the next 24 years of your life. Elizabeth Fritzl was freshly 18 and ready to leave the nest when one day in 1984, her father, Joseph Fritzl, asked her to help him install the door in the basement of their home in Austria. Unaware of his horrific intentions, Elizabeth obliged. As they finished and she was heading out, he suddenly covered her face in a cloth soaked in ether. For the next 24 years, Elizabeth had to endure suffering that no one could fathom. Joseph convinced his wife, other children, and their neighbors that Elizabeth ran away and joined some religious cult. They believed it because she had previously run away and stayed with a friend for 20 days when she was 15 to get away from her father's abuse, which started when she was 11. Police found her after those 20 days and brought her back home. If it wasn't terrible enough being forced to endure the blazing summers and catching rats with her bare hands, she was also repeatedly abused by her own father over the years of captivity. Initially, he tied her up with an iron chain so that she could barely move, but it caused trouble during the horrendous activities he put her through, and he removed it months later. For the first 5 years in the basement, she was all alone. He assaulted her at least 3,000 times in those 24 years, which resulted in her birthing 7 children. She gave birth to all her children with no medical help for almost 12 years. Joseph provided her with just a disinfectant, a dirty pair of scissors, and a book on childbirth. One of her children died prematurely due to difficulty breathing just 3 days after his birth in 1996. When the baby started to come, Elizabeth tried to end it all, but looking at her kids, she had purpose to live after the initial years of being alone. Joseph held control over her by threatening to end the lives of her and her children if they ever tried to escape. He would also turn off the lights in the basement for days on end so that she'd be in complete darkness. 3 of her children were in the basement with her, while the other 3 mysteriously appeared on the doorstep of Joseph and Rosemary, Elizabeth's mother, as per his planning. He doctored letters to Rosemary from Elizabeth stating that she was well but couldn't take care of the children. One day, Elizabeth's oldest daughter, Kirsten, who was 19 at the time, became extremely ill and needed immediate hospitalization. This is when Elizabeth pleaded with her father to get Kirsten medical attention. Joseph Fritzl, who had never shown mercy in those 24 years, surprisingly took Kirsten to the hospital. This is when things took a turn. Part 2. I faked being asleep all night to see if my wife was lying. My wife has been Baker acted. She didn't hurt herself, just said something concerning in public. I got a call from the hospital this morning asking me to head over for some family therapy. Apparently, she finally wanted to talk. I'll be honest, I'm pretty pissed at the reason why she's been so hateful towards my cats. It's absolutely asinine. It's nothing that anyone had suggested. She's not cheating. She's not sick physically or mentally. She's not bored of the relationship and looking for an out. According to her, one of the cats stepped on her laptop and ruined a story that she was writing. She's hated both cats ever since. I mean, that sucks, but it's not worth trying to emotionally blackmail me into getting rid of them. I asked her why she didn't just tell me the truth and why she'd been lying and refused to talk about it when I asked. Her answer was, because you wouldn't have gotten rid of them otherwise, and explained that when she saw I wasn't willing to abandon them for her, she took offense and made it a goal to have me pick her over them. Sickening. Don't know why she actually admitted to it all. The woman with us asked me how I felt about it all, and I just told the truth. I told her it was a nice run, but I'm probably going to want a divorce. I was asked why, and I told them. I've seen a new hateful, malicious side of her that I want nothing to do with. She was so set on getting rid of the cats over a fan fiction being ruined that she manipulated her husband. My wife started shouting at me that I've betrayed her and that I'm scum for choosing animals over her. At least cats don't give ultimatums like she gave. It sucks that she's been Baker acted and all, I guess, but it's for the best right now. She'll have time to process it all in a safe environment and hopefully come to terms with it. Bad husband, I know. I'm almost sure that I'm going for a divorce. I'm very worried about having her in the same house with my cats. I want my cats safe. I don't want to worry about them being harmed or disappearing. Screw that. Part 2. I laughed in my husband's face when he asked to avoid the